Do your hands speak? Hello, come here. I love you. Peace. Live long and prosper. Na 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 na. I don't know about you, but it is very clear to me that there is a language of hands. Rather, I should say languages. Baseball teams, commodities brokers, orchestra conductors, all have different languages of hands. What seems like the number 2 in America is actually obscene in Britain. And then there are the 2 sides of my family. The waspy Manhattan side prefers to add adjectives in order to emphasize a point, and hands are almost always respectfully at the sides. Whereas my Brooklyn Jewish side likes to emphasize every point by gesticulating as loudly as possible. You might even say that the hand rivals the tongue in its ability to communicate. We request, we applaud, summon, dismiss, pray, bless, make oaths, insult, refuse, flatter, welcome, show surprise, grief, and joy, all with our fingertips. Hands are bearers of meaning in our lives. They bear witness to the human urge for connectedness, whether a handshake or the embrace of old friends at the beginning of SUUSI, or a handwritten speech meant to inspire us to tend our earth. At the same time, our hands mark our individuality. We recognize the hands of one we love. Before there was DNA, there were fingerprints and signatures. Our hands give us away. The first time I thought about this was while wandering an exhibit called Speaking with Hands by the photographer Henry Buell. I decided at this exhibit to play a little game, to see if I could guess who the portrait was of when the portrait was only hands. The hands loosely holding prayer beads. The Dalai Lama. The hands clasped, etched with lines over and over, representing hard work, Mother Teresa. The hands of 2 fists with true love tattooed on the knuckles, a union organizer. And the hands dripping with rhinestones and rings. Can anyone guess? Yes, Liberace, and I guessed too. Exactly. Our hands reveal so much about us. Harriet Tubman, when she escaped from slavery, is quoted as having said, "I looked at my hands to see who I was, now that I was free." I began to perceive the following twofold task as I looked at this array of portraits of hands. Number 1, who do my hands say that I am? Who am I? Number 2, what will be my handiwork? What am I called to do with this one precious life, with these precious hands? They have the opportunity to help me to heal or to destroy. It is my choice. It is your choice. It is our choice. We may not always want to admit it, but we human beings do have immense power in our hands. As John F. Kennedy reminded us, the world is very different now. For humans hold in their mortal hands the power to abolish all forms of human poverty and all forms of human life. Many of us recognize the statement as true on an intellectual level. However, in our daily lives, we may not see how our individual actions can have such a profound impact. If I do or don't choose to recycle the bottles in my house, what impact will it make on our environment? And if I learn about the legacies of racism and sexism and ableism, if I strive to use my privileges to open doors to those who have had them shut in their face, can I make a difference? As I stared at the photograph of Martin Luther King Jr.'s hands, I glimpsed a part of the answer. His hands were fittingly surrounded by so many other hands embracing them. You see, he knew well that old proverb that many hands make light work. And he had faith that if he carved a path, that others would join in the communion of struggle and finish his work. That song that he's got the whole world in his hands is only partly true. The truth is we have the whole world in our hands, and thank goodness none of us has this power alone. None of us as individuals can either create or end world suffering. It is difficult to come to terms with, but Hitler did not rise to power alone. And the most chilling image for me of that fact are hands raised in the air, thousands of them, assenting and saying, Heil Hitler. We hold so much this year. Right now, even as the Republican convention is going on at this very moment, but also with the ongoing legacies of violence and oppression and the life as we know it altering challenge of climate justice. Many of us are now multitasking all of the time. We are here at SUUSI, enjoying one another's company, and we are also here with the world in our hands. We're in Nice, we're in Baton Rouge, we're in Minnesota, we're in Cleveland. We are holding the world's hurts and the world's possibilities in the palm of our hands. Yes, we hold the world's possibilities too. We are living in a time of the tipping point where danger and opportunity lie side by side. The power to harm and the power to heal is quite literally in our hands. I have never felt that more purposefully than in recent years as I have worked in my community as an advocate to end gun violence and to end police brutality and excessive use of force through the Black Lives Matter movement. This year, I was asked by the Morris County NAACP and by the local African American Clergy Council if I would join them in a community dialogue with local law enforcement, specifically about the training in use of force of officers. More than that, they asked me, would I be willing to be one of 2 volunteers to be trained in the use of force and to hold a gun. This was not an easy request for me. The last time that I had been so close to the barrel of a gun, it had been pointed towards my head in a robbery as a small child. But sometimes we are called to say yes to the risks that love demands of us, even when it makes us uncomfortable, especially when it is a risk that might bring more healing to our community. And so I did. I said yes, and I stepped into that use of force simulator with so many scenarios before me, and I had to make very tough decisions. And at the end, the training officer gave me high marks on my communication skills, my ability to de-escalate with both body language and speech, and low marks on my ability to follow through and pull the trigger. I'm actually okay with that. I'm very much okay with that. But through efforts of all of us leaning into the challenges of our community, we are making changes, and now our police officers wear body cameras to help to hold them accountable. And we're continuing the dialogue and now working on a project to deepen the anti-racism and multiculturalism training that are offered to our police officers. But sometimes our handiwork doesn't have to be so dramatic. Sometimes it can simply be writing a letter and forging a relationship with another human being. I serve on the board of the UU Church of the Larger Fellowship, which, amongst other populations, happens to serve a large church of prisoners. We now have 740 Unitarian Universalists who are incarcerated that we serve. At one of our meetings, one of the prisoners wrote a letter to us, wanting us to know what a difference the Pen Pal ministry had made in their lives. It was an African-American man who had been behind bars many years, who had been in a long-term relationship through letter writing with a white woman in one of our congregations. He said it was the first time in his life that he had experienced a mutual caring relationship with a white woman. And he was so excited, with a white person, he actually said. And it was so healing, in fact, that although he couldn't literally, physically make it to General Assembly, he asked if we would carry a photo of him to the Unitarian Universalist General Assembly. And we did. A life-sized 6-foot cutout of him, which he was placed in the first row during the Church of the Larger Fellowship's worship. Or the experience this year of marching with 100 women who are immigrants from all around the country, a coalition of us, immigrant justice workers who were invited to walk 100 miles from York, Pennsylvania, at a detention center to Washington, D.C., the halls of power. I was called into so many opportunities of meaningful service, but perhaps the most meaningful, the final 2 miles, a woman cried out for the chaplain to come to the front, which I did. It turned out that this woman suffered from a debilitating illness that made it very difficult, very painful for her to walk. And she was afraid that she was going to fall to the ground. And she asked me, "Pastora, will you hold my hand and pray with me to the end?" And we did. We held hands and prayed unceasingly, and she made it to the 100th mile. Holy work is possible with these hands. And I have seen at times God, flashes of the divine imprinted in the movement of our hands. When I was a teenager, I was inpatient quite a bit in a pediatric cancer ward. And the best image of God that I have to this day was a 5-year-old who wanted to learn to ride a bicycle but hadn't been let outside of the hospital in months, who asked his mother if she would teach him how to ride a bike. She managed to get a bicycle into the 5th floor, the pediatric cancer ward. No easy task, let me tell you, bureaucratic nightmares in hospitals. And she did it. He mounted on that bike, and his mother steadied the back, running after him, and a nurse helped to detangle the IV lines to make sure that they didn't break. And that child whizzed by on that bike and threw his hands up in the air and yelled, "Whee!" And I knew God was there in that very moment. So this day, this week of SUUSI, this life of yours, I ask you, who do your hands say that you are? What do they say about you and what you are creating in this life? What will be your handiwork? And as you consider the answer, you might find helpful this advice found in Midrash. And it's obviously very important because it has an accompanying lots of things. This is from Midrash, the collection of wisdom sayings from the rabbis. When a person enters the world, his hands are clenched as though to say, the whole world is mine. I shall inherit it. But when he takes leave of it, his hands are open as if to say, I have inherited nothing from the earth, and all that matters is what I have given away. So don't sit on your hands deciding for too long, for there is food to prepare for the hungry, mind-expanding art to be produced, hands that need to be held, and so much more. Most of all, have faith in the gift of your hands. May they be instruments of love, of life, of justice. Amen, and may it be so.